biggest and most important race of the NASCAR season, and here on Eurosport we were hoping to bring the excitement of the first round of the 2001 series to your screen. Tragically, however, the race was entirely overshadowed by the fatal crash of Dale Earnhardt on the final lap, a death that has rocked the motorsport fraternity the world over. Earnhardt had earned the 7th spot on the grid for the race, and before it began shared a tender moment with his son Dale Earnhardt Jr. and his wife before the start. 3 cars on the grid, including that of his son, were owned by Dale Earnhardt Daytona before this event, having won some 34 times here. He was looking forward to trying to back up his 1998 victory. And indeed, as the drivers were introduced, it was Earnhardt who got the biggest cheer of the day. The race got underway with the cars of Bill Elliott and Jerry Nadeau on the front row of the grid, the Dodge of Elliott having taken the all-important pole position. New aerodynamic rules for this year's race had been introduced to try and improve the excitement of the passing. There was certainly plenty of action. The drivers knew it would be tricky, and indeed so it proved a little later in the race. Lap 174, a big crash occurring involving the car particularly of Tony Stewart. Now, fortunately, in this crash on lap 174, nobody was badly hurt. Just take a look at this. This was Tony Stewart's car that got flicked and then turned upside down, rolled over several times, and a total of 18 cars were involved in this accident. Something that many of the drivers had feared would be possible. The new aerodynamic rules trying to increase the amount of drag the cars created. Earnhardt himself was well clear of this particular accident, but many drivers were involved. Stewart was the one who took off, but amongst the drivers involved, Ward Burton, Steve Park, Jeff Gordon, Andy Houston, Jeff Burton and Bobby Labonte, having to clamber out of his very wrecked machine, and cars all over the place. Well, as I say, Tony Stewart had the most dramatic part to play in that accident. And let's just take another look at it once again. There was a little bit of contact. Somebody else got well out of shape, and they hit Tony Stewart, punched him sideways into the wall. Then that was what flicked him over, and you can see the mayhem that was created as a result. Well across the infield, Tony Stewart did suffer some injuries. He was concussed and also suffered a dislocated shoulder. Take a view from the on-board camera of Tony Stewart's car now. The camera holding for a second, and then we see pictures once again as it seemed to kick back into action. And that was Tony Stewart's accident. But as I say, although he was taken off to hospital, a dislocated shoulder, there he was in the car, actually being spoken to by Bobby Labonte, who'd gone over to check up on him and see if he was okay. They did bring out the red flag, understandably, and that caused the race to be stopped for some 16 minutes. When the race got underway again, Michael Waltrip in one of Dale Earnhardt's cars took off, but in the background, Earnhardt had the accident coming out of turn 4. This was the very final lap. Michael Waltrip came over the line to win the race. As Michael Waltrip's wife looked on, a mixture of emotions on her face. Michael Waltrip taking the victory, his first win in 463 starts. But it was clear that Dale Earnhardt's accident was indeed a serious one. It might not have looked so bad from the pictures, but news was beginning to come through as Waltrip was celebrated in victory lane. It was a 1-2 finish for Dale Earnhardt's team. Waltrip and Earnhardt Jr. driving for Dale Earnhardt's team. But let's take another look at the action. The black number 3 car, Earnhardt, just pushed a little bit initially and then collected by Ken Schrader as he went up into the wall. And that was the accident that was to claim Dale Earnhardt's life. Both cars brought down to the inside. Dale Earnhardt Jr. quickly being made aware of the situation and trying to find out more, but there was not a lot that he could do. According to the doctors on the scene, Earnhardt was killed instantly on the impact out of turn number 4. The news came through a little bit later.
This is undoubtedly one of the toughest announcements that I've ever personally had to make. but after the accident in turn 4 at the end of the Daytona 500, we've lost Dale Earnhardt.
Dale Earnhardt was one of the greatest champions of the modern motorsport era and the biggest name in American motorsport. It wasn't just his tally of success, which included 7 championship titles, 76 race wins and over $41 million won, that made him so famous. It was his hard-headed racing style that endeared him to millions of fans. Right from the early days, he charged from the start. And as he went through his career, that number 3 car with the black colours would become so associated with him. The 1993 championship, the 1994 championship were his last 2 titles. But the black number 3, the sunglasses, the open-face helmet, they were instantly recognisable by millions of fans throughout America and throughout the world. His hard-headed style gave him the nickname, the Intimidator. But while he sometimes used the bumping tactics a bit too strongly for his rivals' liking, all of them had a huge amount of respect for the son of a former NASCAR driver of the 50s, who died while Dale was still young. His success began in 1979 when he joined the Winston Cup when he was Rookie of the Year. He went on to take his first title in 1980, the year after that. His first successes came with Rod Osterlund, but he switched to Richard Childress Racing for 1981, and the remainder of his titles, and indeed all his success, have come with that team. Like this 1998 win at Daytona, the 500. It took him a long time to win the Daytona 500, but finally in 1998 he achieved it. And of course that firm style could always be seen and would always provide plenty of entertainment for the fans. An example here at Bristol. Look at his treatment of Terry Labonte at the 1999 August Bristol race. He wasn't too impressed by Labonte, and that was classic Dale Earnhardt to push him out of the way. Himself getting a little bit of nudge, but it was enough for Dale to win the race. And that was delight for the team, but not so much for the fans who were booing, 130,000 of them, booing Dale Earnhardt on this occasion for his hard-headed tactics. But it wasn't going to deny him the victory. Classic Intimidator stuff, this. Risky, but he managed to miss the spinning car of Labonte. Let's just take ourselves back to that day. And this was Dale after winning that race in such style, typical Earnhardt style. And the ESPN crew caught up with him. And you can see the boos and the reaction from the crowd after his treatment. This was what Dale Earnhardt had to say about it on that occasion.
Well, Dale Earnhardt climbs out with his nice victory at Bristol. And Dale, that's what Bristol's all about. Take us through those last couple laps.
Well, style was a style that perhaps some of the younger drivers used as well. Jeremy Mayfield gave him this little nudge at Pocono, and came through to take a victory himself, just showing perhaps that Earnhardt's style can come back at him sometimes. Earnhardt ended up finishing that race down in 4th position.
Didn't mean to hit him or anything, just want to...
Here in 2000, it was a good season for Dale Earnhardt. He ended up second in the championship, and he had 2 victories, including this one at Atlanta. An amazing race between him and Bobby Labonte, the man who would come through as champion, and it was Earnhardt who just snatched the victory on that occasion. Typical Earnhardt. More great racing from him in 2000, but sadly, that is the last we shall see of the great champion. 6 victories. Dale Earnhardt was a true champion, an inspiration to thousands, perhaps even millions of people, and a supportive father and family man. He will be greatly missed by fans of motorsport the world over.